Welcome to Source Filmmaker Tips and Tricks. Today's video is going to be on creating a simple looping animation. So the way that I'm going to do this is I'm going to first of all just sit through and quickly create a looping animation explaining every step that I do, and then once we have it done and working, I'm going to go back again and explain the reasons behind doing everything I do. And the reason for that is I believe that it's always a good idea to have a strong understanding of the rationale behind the processes as opposed to just knowing the processes themselves. That way, if you have a fundamental understanding, then you can adapt them as necessary when the processes, as explained here, don't work perfectly for your particular situation. It allows you to adapt. So this animation is going to be really simple. It's just going to be Jill here shaking her head. It's going to be nothing fancy, but it will get the point across. So the first thing I do is I have the neck and the head selected, and I always go in the graph editor. I always keyframe. So I go to the frame 0, here's frame 0 here, and hit M, which creates a bookmark. I always skip forward 6, ignore the hair jiggle bones going crazy. That's not an issue. I always go forward 6 at a time when I'm animating. Right click, rotation local allows the bones to move individually. Then we just go like this. Move forward another 6. Go the other way. And go forward another 6. So here, right here is the first step. Is when you're making a looping animation, you always want the first frame and the last frame to be identical. So the way you do that is you select the first frame, and you can copy key or Control C, and then you come over to your last frame, right click and paste, or Control V. So this is our really simple animation. It's nothing super fancy. Okay, so how I'm controlling that is I'm using the left and the right brackets to jump keyframes, and then the space bar to play and stop. So as you can see, it works okay. It's a bit jittery on the pullback. So the first thing you always want to do is you want to select all of your keyframes and then hit this button right here, spline tangents. So if you click that, you can see that when I clicked it, the normals here, these lines, moved a little bit. And more importantly, when I play it, it's a fair bit smoother now. So that's what spline does. Spline moves the motion in between keyframes. So now as you can see, we have a single loop going on, but that's not sufficient for what we want. So we want to have at least 3 cycles of the animation. Select them all and spline them. So now, here's our motion. Okay, so that's it for the animation. So now the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to actually restart Source Filmmaker. So I'll be right back. Source Filmmaker is restarted. The next thing we want to do is right click, Utilities, hover over Bake Procedural Bones, but don't hit it until when you look down here at your FPS, you want this to be as close to 300 out of 24 as you can get. If it's anything under 100, just cancel the selection and try it again. Might take a few tries before it gets to 300, but it will get there eventually. So once it's at 300 out of 24 like it is now, bake procedural bones. It should freeze for a split second or so as it bakes the procedurals. Now if we play our motion, we have the jiggle bones moving. Okay. So now is make sure you right click, show hidden controls, select the entire model. And if you look at this, you can see these curves for the jiggle bones. So the next thing we want to do is we go to one of the things that's animated, such as the neck. And we want to go to where the second cycle starts. So that is from frame 18 to frame 36. So we go to frame 18, we go to the clip editor, and we hit B to blade. And then we select the long piece, and we skip forward another 18, which was frame 36, and blade. Now this middle one is what we're going to actually loop. So if I put this on the loop now, click this to loop, and hit Control Space, you'll see it looks okay. It doesn't look too bad. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to seal the loop. So this is something that a lot of people ask me for, and this is actually the reason why I am making this video now, is I have a lot of people constantly asking how to seal the loop. So the way you do that is you go to the motion editor, you grab the left edge and pull it all the way to the very end of the scene, and then you want to grab and pull. So this is called tweening. See how it slopes. You want to grab that and you want to tween one frame in. Then you want to grab your playhead, the blue arrow, and you want to put it at the very beginning, the very first frame. Then select everything that moves, and under the procedural tab, apply full playhead. It's a slider, so you grab it and move it to the right. And then you'll see down here in the orange section, as I do this, all the lines go straight. And that's exactly what we want. Okay, so what we're doing here is we are telling everything over from here over to be the exact same as the very first frame. And then we're telling it to move from here. So now, if I control, now we have a perfect loop. And then you would just export this out and do whatever you want. So now I'm going to go back and explain everything I did. So the first things I did is I created the animation. That's not that big of a deal. Then I splined things. So the spline, the reason why you spline, as I said, is it uses a cosine curve. It uses cosine interpolation to put motion in between your keyframes such that it's a smooth motion. Like if you look at these curves, you see how they're kind of smooth. There's an important note here, though, actually, is if you look, they actually go up. See, as it actually goes a bit higher than the actual keyframe. And that is important. If you pay attention to this, let me go over here and duplicate this loop a few times, actually, so I can demonstrate this better. If I do this, here we go. Over here. So an important thing to know about cosine splines, and this is why you want to have at least 3 cycles of your animation. Cosine splines take 3 points. If you were to take a cosine spline around point 18, so you want to spline 18, then you would take the one before it, which is 12, and the one after it, 24, and you would take these 3 points and you'd run it through a cosine interpolation spline, and that gives you the points all along this curve. So the reason why you want to have 3 cycles is that at the beginning of your animation, let me just get rid of these for posterity's sake, at the beginning of your animation, frame 0 does not have a frame before it. And so when you try to cosine interpolate it, when you use the cosine spline, it does not have all the data it needs. Similarly, the very last frame does not have a keyframe after it. And so it has the same thing. It's an incomplete spline. But the middle animation, the second cycle, go to here at 18, it has a keyframe before and after. And similarly, keyframe 36 has a keyframe before and after. So they both get a complete spline, which is what you want for the animation to link perfectly. So that is why you want to have 3 cycles, and that's also why you never want to take the first cycle or the last cycle. You always want at least the second to last cycle. You don't want the edges. So now the reason why I restarted Source Filmmaker, and I'm not going to do that again, the reason I restarted Source Filmmaker is that Source Filmmaker has a tendency to not want to bake jigobones properly the more things you do in the Source Filmmaker. So if you sit through and you spend 40 minutes making an animation, you put together the scene and you light it and all of that, chances are Source Filmmaker will have done too much and it would not bake jigobones properly. So I always, just out of habit, when I'm ready to bake jigobones, I always just save, close out Source Filmmaker, reload it, and it becomes the very first thing I do. So now the reason why you want to bake jigobones is that they are not actually keyframed by default. Like if I were to do this, if I were to enable her procedural bones again, go down to the unknown tab, you will see that there are no jigobones here. Whereas if I were to enable the procedural bones or bake them, look, and all the jigobones actually become apparent, and they actually will have motion, such as here. You can see the motion there. So you want to bake your procedural bones so that you can have them loop properly. And then sealing the loop, which is what this little did out here, the reason for doing that is that it forces the curves to obey exactly what you want. Because depending on the motion, and more complex motions will show this more apparent, the jiggle bones won't always be in the same position every cycle. Because they're animated procedurally, the engine animates them using physics, a physics engine. And so depending on the motion, they might be in slightly different places every time the animation repeats. But if you're making a loop, then you don't want that, because the position of the last frame and the position of the first frame is different. Then it will result in the jiggle bones sort of just snapping into place, which is very jarring and just very low quality for a loop. So what you do then is you force all of the curves to be the same as the first frame, and that resolves that snapping issue, except for the motions before the playhead will now be snapping, which is why you do the tween, which is an ease or a curve that gently guides it. Now, depending on your motion and how far off it is, one frame of tweening might not be enough. You might need 2, you might need 3, sometimes even 4 frames of tweening for the motion to look clear. But in general, you want at least 1. You want at least 1 frame of tweening. So that's really about it. It's a fair bit of information. It might be a bit overwhelming at first, but in the end, it's really not that complicated. So general rules of thumb, your first frame is always your last frame. Always take the second cycle of 3 cycles. Always use spline tangents. Seal your loop. That's really all you really need to do to make a good, smooth looping animation. Okay, that's all I have for now. I will try to get the next 3D SFM video done for compiling sometime soon. I don't know when that will be, and I have absolutely no idea what the next Source Filmmaker tips and trick will be, or what the first 3ds Max tips and tricks will be. I'll let you know as soon as I know, and I'll probably let you know in the form of a new video. Thank you for your time. I hope this was educational. Feel free to drop any comments. Let me know if you have ideas of things to learn or if I need to clarify anything. And thank you for your time. Thanks for watching.